Hey everybody, Damian Broussard here from CE Kilts. I'm here with co-founder Andrew Lyon, and Mr. Glen Allardyce is joining us this evening for an interview. Welcome, Glen. Thanks for joining us tonight. Great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Damian. Thanks, Andrew. Glad to be here.
No, so excited to talk to you. I mean, everybody should know who you are, right? I think.
I would think so. I don't know. Maybe not.
Well, okay, so I don't even know how many years ago it was, but the first time I interacted with you, and you probably don't even know, was on Imager.com.
Yeah.
Your posts were showing up weekly and maybe gave me a little push to be more kilted in my life.
Absolutely.
Despite having, lots of Scottish ancestry and family, getting that into an everyday side of my life, thinking that's a possibility. Interesting, so definitely going to have to credit you for some of that.
Well, thanks. So that was, I guess, about 5 years ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've been on that site for a minute.
Okay. There you go.
Damian, have you run across Glen before?
I have. I've run across Glen several times on different Facebook posts, and with his work with the Wildcat Tartan, which we'll get into later in the show. And then with his fundraising efforts, I've run into Glen several times. So, Glen, speaking of fundraising efforts, there's something that you've been working on for a while as far as Kilted for a Cause. Talk to us a little bit about that. What's all that about?
So, Kilting for a Cause came up because a friend of mine, I was telling you before about her grandfather who, carved the Skene Doos and all that. So they've been friends of the family forever. And she's a person with a disability. And disabled accommodations, like disabled housing up here in Canada, not that common, right? So, so the whole idea was to get her out of the place she was in, which was community housing. She'd been attacked in the. She was physically attacked by somebody in there. I had to go to the hospital. We were both attacked actually, but they charged the woman with attacking Vanessa because they said I pushed her. I pushed this woman away from me. I wouldn't touch a woman. Like I wouldn't punch a woman or anything like that. So she hit me in the head 50 times. And
my goodness.
And then she went after Vanessa. So I had to get her out of that place. It wasn't safe for her. So anyway, so the idea was, let's see what we can do to raise some money to get her out of there. And what I did with the first bit of the money was I was able to do first and last on renting of this condo. So I did first and last on the rental of the condo and the moving expenses and all of that. And then I kind of said, okay, we're here, we're good. And that was it. And now a year and a half later we are now. And for the past 6 months, the landlord has been trying to sell it.
Of course.
So because people are coming into the unit and they're looking at it and they're going, so I don't need a roll-in shower. So I don't need lower light switches. So it's confusing to me, so I'm not buying it. Well, now it's ramping up because there's a new realtor and they've dropped the price and they're pushing it hard. So that's why I decided, what, maybe I should bring it back and see what can happen. And people have been very responsive this time around. So it's great.
That's awesome.
And you seem to be active in more than just one kind of cause. I mean, all over your Facebook, are dogs and things like that who need help.
I'm a dog.
Is that just your life? Are you always just looking to help everyone out?
You know what? Seriously, I'm a dog lover, and we've got 2 dogs here. We've got a Shih Tzu Terrier named Apricot, who's a rescue, and Steve, who's also a rescue. And Steve came from North Carolina. Steve was in a high kill shelter, and I saw him on one of the Facebook groups that I'm on, and they said we need a foster for this dog, or we can't get him. So we said, okay. I said, do you think we got room for another dog? And she said, yep. And so I said, okay, we'll take him. And then to foster him. And then 2 days later, we were like, yeah, he's our dog. And,
I know how that goes
with them, right?
So Glenn, tell us, have you been wearing kilts your entire life? Is this something that kind of started as an adult, or were you just
Oh yeah,
when you were born and when you left the hospital, you were wearing tartan?
no, nothing quite like that. My dad is from the Highlands. My mom's from the Lowlands. They came over here in the 1950s. I'm first generation Canadian, and they met here at like a Scottish dance or something. And
Fantastic.
they got together for a little while, and then they split up, and then they saw each other at another dance. And he was with a girl from Montreal, and she was with some other guy, and they were like, "What are we doing with these two?"
Yeah.
And we got back together, and they've been married now for close to 60 years.
Wow.
Awesome.
57,
Amazing.
57 years or so, 58 years, somewhere around, maybe even more than that. I'd have to do the math on that one, but they've been together for a while, and they're devoted to each other. And we grew up in a Scottish household, but it was in Canada, right? We knew all about Robert Burns and stuff like that. And we listened to Billy Connolly albums on the weekend. And, you know, it was very much a meat and potatoes family. But I never really wore the kilt. My dad had one kilt, but it was his, you know. But I was at work, and we had a heritage night. And they decided to have a heritage night, and they said, everybody wear the costume from your heritage and bring in food and music. And so people brought in stuff from all over the world because we had people from everywhere. And my dad said, here, wear my old kilt, and here's my old spore, and it shrunk in the closet, so it's yours now. So I strapped it on and wore it. And then everybody at work said, when are you going to wear that again? That looked great. When are you going to wear it again? So I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll wear it next week. And then my twin brother gave me the kilt he was married in because he said, I'm never going to wear it again. So then I had 2 kilts. And then I ordered one. Then I had 3 kilts. And then it just
then the snowball effect happens.
got like 27 or 23 or something. And I think 23 was the last count. And, you know, I think I'm almost done with it. The last one I got was another clan kilt, Clan Graham, Graham of Menteith kilt that I got from Isaac Walters. And it's in Wilson's of Bannockburn colors, done in the old style. And that's why I went with Isaac. Because I found this all started on Facebook Marketplace. I found a jacket and waistcoat from 1894.
Oh, wow.
My goodness.
That are in my size. So the guy didn't want to ship it from London, England. But I've got a friend in London, England, who's a police officer. So I got in touch with my police officer friend and said, would you mind picking this up from the guy? So he did, and then he shipped it to me. And,
wow.
Do
you still have it? That's like...
Still have it, yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
So once I got that, I was like, now I need a kilt in the same style, right?
Yeah.
So I look like I walked right out of the Highlanders of Scotland.
Is that checkered jacket that you have?
No.
Okay.
The Burns check is from, I think, the 50s or the 60s, because that's when
it's a powerful jacket, man.
That's when the tartan came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So this
That's
one's a crowdal color, is what I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. Probably not. But it's like a gingery tweed. You can't even get this color anymore. They don't make it.
Right. That's amazing.
That red Prince Charlie you have, or I guess it's a deep maroon. That's a pretty cool jacket, man.
Yeah. Okay. So the reason I got that was I lent out my black Prince Charlie and it never came back.
Oh my.
I lent out my black PC to a friend of mine, and then when I said, "Hey, where's my jacket?" he said, "What jacket?" And I was like, "All right, fine, whatever." So I found that on Gumtree for 20 pounds. And,
wow.
Cool.
So, talk to us a little bit. You're into some other stuff too, and this is really where my passion is here. Talk to us a little bit about the Wildcat tartan, how you got involved in it, and what it does. It's not just another tartan. Talk about like the importance of the Wildcat tartan for me.
So a few years ago, doing this all backwards, because So a few years ago, now, 6, 7, 8 years ago, somewhere around there, a friend of mine on X Marks the Scot was over in Scotland and found out about the plight of the wildcat. That the Scottish wildcat, they were saying there was only 30 to 300 left in the wild.
That's right.
At the time, and probably closer to 30 at that time, close to a decade ago now. And he knew about the capercaillie tartan for the birds. And the capercaillie tartan was raising money for these endangered birds over in Scotland. And he came back from Scotland and he went on to X Marks and he said, maybe we can do something about this. And I said, well, I'm a graphic designer. I've never designed a tartan, but let me see what I can come up with. And so with the input of a lot of people on X Marks, I came up with the tartan design that we've got. But I took a lot of suggestions from a lot of different people. Some of the suggestions I left behind because it's a huge forum, and I don't like designing by committee. And when I'm designing by committee with thousands of people, at some point you gotta like put your foot down and say, who's the designer? I'm the designer, right? So that's who's on it. And also I've really tried to promote it as much as possible because I really believe in the cause. So we've been able to do like 5 runs of it, and we've raised £10,000 for Wildcat Haven, which is the entity over there that's trying to help them. Recently, they had a Scottish wildcat kitten found a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now. And these people found him in their backyard, basically on their farm or whatever. And he was just an orphaned, tiny little kitten. And they brought him inside in a storm. And they looked at this cat and said, wait a minute, this isn't a house cat.
Right.
And what are we going to do with this thing? Because we can't keep it. So they got in touch with Wildcat Haven, and Wildcat Haven came and got Finn, and they named him Finley. So they got Finley, and they got him an enclosure and everything else, and they're rehabilitating Finley to go back into the wild. So somebody called the police on them, and they came and they took Finley.
I remember that.
I designed a T-shirt that said "Free Finley" and had one printed up, and never printed up any for anybody else, but I've got it. So
fantastic.
So then they finally got Finley back after a few months, and he's back to thriving now. So these.
And Glenn, not to interrupt you, but for anybody interested out there, there is a show. I hope I'm not wrong on this. I believe it's on Amazon Video that features Wildcat Haven in Scotland. There's a documentary on it. So if you're interested, I hope I'm right on this. I believe it's Amazon Prime TV that there is a documentary about the Scottish Wildcat Haven.
If we can find the link to that, or if we can find the name, we'll put it in the show notes down below.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I noticed that you are a graphic designer. You've got to do some of that through your life and through your work, and you talk about being in marketing now. What would you like to tell some people out there that were like, I could make my own tartan? Because everybody has gone to the websites, everybody has thrown up on the tartan thing and started putting stuff up and go, okay, that's terrible. What would you tell?
Go ahead and do it, and seriously, don't stop. Okay, don't stop it. I always knew, I don't know about everybody else, but I always knew what I wanted to be. From the time I was 8 years old, I knew I wanted to be an artist. And, I became an artist. I became a graphic artist, and now that kind of morphed into marketing. But, if you've got something that you want out, you can do it, right? You can do it. And the technology is there now to make it so much easier. You don't have to get your pencils out and, I'm going to draw my tartan, right? You don't have to do that now, right? It's way easier than it used to be. So, go out, have fun with it, and see what you can come up with. Because seriously, tartan's not going anywhere. There's thousands of tartans out there, and there's room for thousands more, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because crazy people like me will buy them if we like them, right?
That's right.
We're all the same in that way, right? Like we've all got a closet full of tartan. And hey, some people, they always buy their family tartan, and some people just buy what they like or what they're connected to or whatever. A lot of the
That's right.
tartans I've got, I'm connected to, but I also love the colors, love the patterns. So, you know.
Yeah, I told you, you mentioned something earlier that you were probably done. You know, you got all the kilts you need. I said that about a week ago. My wife is still laughing at me right now. She's like, I hear her in the back laughing at me. But there is one tartan that I don't have that I absolutely is on my bucket list, and it is the wildcat tartan. My daughter wants to be a wildlife biologist, and look, he's going to show us. I think, yeah, I love it.
That's so cool.
There it is.
My daughter wants to be a wildlife biologist, and we have cats. We have cats all over my farm here. So that one really hits near and dear to me, and I hate that I missed the last run. But we're gonna we're hopefully gonna get enough people in to get another run going. So
you know, we're
to mention that now, if you're watching this video and you're interested in the wildcat tartan, comment below, subscribe to our channel, comment below. And we can get you in touch with Glenn, and he can get you put on the waiting list. That way, when there is another run, you can get a call.
I'll get you guys the link to the wait list.
We're on it. We signed the link list a long time ago.
All right,
but we'll sign it again.
Yeah, we put it on our Facebook page, but we're going to do it again.
We can post it up for sure.
So tell us of another tartan that. So one of those things that we notice selling kilts here and there is that everybody starts out with family. Got to have family, and then they realize that maybe they're the sept, and so they find their clan, and then they want all the 14 other clans that they're part of, because being in North America, we're all mutts. Yep. But then somewhere later on, we start finding people getting into the regional ones. I mean, Damian and I are great examples of that. We're both Holyrood lovers, and then I just got some Strathbee coming. I got an 8-yard wool Strathbee coming in, or Strathbay. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that.
So
he's not a wildcat. He's not a Scottish wildcat, but he's close.
Got the same colors. He's got the same colors, just a little bit of different.
He just doesn't have the right tail.
He doesn't have the huge tail, and the markings aren't quite right, but he's got the color.
That's right. He doesn't have the right tail. Thanks, Jen.
So what other tartans are, like when people are getting into this and you're like, hey, I know the family stuff is important to you, but start looking at this, because you can announce rather the stuff that you love in other ways. Hey, if I saw somebody out there with wildcat, I'm like, I know what you love. Regional
tartans are amazing. Like in Canada, and I think in the States too, every state has its own tartan, right? Every province in Canada has its own tartan, and Canada has its own national tartan, the maple leaf tartan.
So the maple leaf is beautiful.
I have a maple leaf kilt, and I love it. It's it was a special run done by one of my friends who's a kilt maker. It's amazing how that happens. You get friends who are kilt makers, and so I had to jump in on that one. So that's one that I absolutely love. And when I was designing the wildcat, the idea of how nicely those colors go together was one of the things that I had in mind, as well as, I'm going to throw this one out there. It's regional too. Isle of Skye.
Oh, yes.
Isle of Skye is just gorgeous, right? And so if you can get something that's as successful as that, I think you've really got something. And
absolutely.
And those were two inspirations for me when I started designing this thing.
I think we're going to start seeing more people wanting the wildcat, just because we've noticed that more people want the
weathered
weathered look.
Yeah.
It's going crazy right now. That's the only thing people ask us for, is weathered.
Yeah, the thing in style right now is the neutral colors and weathered look. So I agree with you, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to Outlander.
That's right. Yeah. Hey. Yeah. Absolutely.
She's great. I met her a few years back at the Highland Games.
Glenn, you may not know this, but I'm my last name is Broussard. I live in Louisiana, so I actually have Canadian ties. My direct ancestors came from Nova Scotia with the Acadians. They went straight from Nova Scotia, and found refuge with the Spains here in Louisiana back when we got booted out. So Nova Scotia is definitely on my bucket list to visit because some of the houses, some of the historical sites for my ancestors are actually still there in Nova Scotia that you could visit today.
Oh yeah.
My dad was born in a house in Blackburn, Scotland, which is north of Aberdeen, and his house is still there. It's
Wow.
Amazing.
a stone house, you know. And so when
us over in North America don't really have a concept of that. I'll always have to retell the joke that Diana Gabaldon, in her famous book, everybody should know, or series rather, has a great quote, and that is, North Americans think that 200 years is a long time, and Europeans think that 200 miles is really far.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think what a great statement. We just don't have any concept of that when we start talking about our parents and grandparents or great grandparents walking from Nova Scotia to like Massachusetts or Louisiana. Don't have any concept of what kind of distance that is.
And I think Scott takes a while, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, another tartan that I absolutely love that I know there's not very many of them out there is the Royal Naval Association tartan. My uncle McMurdo, that was his first name. It's about as Scottish as you can get. He was my godfather. He was 14 years old when World War II broke out, and he decided to volunteer for the Royal Navy.
Wow.
And he got in.
Amazing.
He was on 3 different ships. 2 of them sunk. And so he survived 2 shipwrecks. I just put the stuff away, but I had a picture of him from Singapore that he sent his parents in 1948 or something, from 1946, just after the war, and said, "From your loving son in Singapore." And it's a picture of him in his like sailor stuff. I got another picture. He's enlisted and he's got a pipe. He's 14 years old and he's got a pipe. And I'm like, hey, you know. So when he passed away, he's always very important to me. He was like a second father. So when he passed away, I had the Royal Naval Association tartan woven, done as a special weave through DC Dalgleish, and I had Barb Tewksbury sew me up a kilt. And I think at the time, anyway, I don't know about now, but at the time it was the only one in North America. And
wow.
I think there's only about 5 of these kilts in the world in this tartan, because at first they held it specifically for veterans of the Royal Navy or widows of veterans. And so it's a very special thing for me to get that one.
That's amazing. Some people around, especially here in North America, would love to do quilt shows. I would like to do a tartan show. I'd like to get some kilts that were, around for couple hundred years or something like that, and put those on display with some great history. Sounds amazing to me.
I got one. Speaking of,
I actually have a. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Glenn.
I said, speaking of 100-year-old kilts, I got one in the Hunting Stewart from World War I.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And I found it on eBay, and the guy didn't know what he had, and I got it for about 25 pounds.
Oh
I'd love to see that. I have a Stewart in my line. I'd love to see that one.
My mom's a Stewart. Yeah, and it's the set is huge, right? It's massive set on it, and it's just it's great.
One of these days when we actually have this show, it's going to be like on loan from Glenn. This whole section is just going to be these great kilts.
Yeah, 30 kilts.
So this one's kind of out of left field. I don't want to jump the gun here, but I want everybody we get to interview to, everybody has their own style. So if we were going to say, if somebody was like, hey, I want to look like Glenn, what is the outfit that comes to your mind? If you're like, oh, well, I know what he wants. He wants a sweater from Erin, Ireland, and a dress shirt and a proper 8-yard, 100% wool. What is the Glenn?
What I'm wearing right now. Well, I tell you, it sounds weird coming from a guy who's got 23 kilts in his closet, but years ago I did a thing on X Marks called 1 kilt, 10 looks. Okay. So get yourself one good kilt. All right. all you really need. Okay. If you're getting started, get one good kilt. All right. Then from there, if you've got things from your family, by all means, like beg, borrow, or steal them. You know, I was lucky in that when I started, my dad gave me his old kilt and he gave me his old sporran. And it was the only sporran he ever had. It's just a brown leather day sporran, totally plain, nothing, but it still works. And I've still got it and I still wear it often. So, you know, go for quality stuff. You don't have to go for quantity, quality. And no matter how you wear it, it's going to work. Never, ever get tired of looking at eBay, because seriously, you find all sorts of stuff. One of my favorite things to wear for the evening is my Balmoral doublet. It's a vintage velvet Balmoral doublet from 1911. And I've got a sporran from 1911 as well. That's the horsehair sporran that I was wearing with my red jacket last time. I was going to wear the velvet Balmoral that night, but thought, you know what? Everybody's going to be wearing black, or that one's midnight blue, but you can't really tell. You know, it looks black. So I thought, wear the red one. And of course, I was the only guy in a red jacket there.
Oh, you stood out.
So, you know, sometimes I'll wear that. A lot of times I like to wear that one, but that was given to me by a friend who had it. And he's the guy who I bought my favorite brown Argyle jacket off of. And he said, I've just got no room for it and I never wear it. So he sent it off to me in the package. And, you know, he just wanted room in his kilt closet. So,
wow.
So, you know, be friendly with people.
Awesome.
It helps.
Very good. So Glenn, one more question for you here. And we kind of touched on it just now, but let's say you have somebody that's getting into their heritage and they're new to wearing kilts.
Yeah.
I know you just said, you know, get yourself one good kilt and build an outfit around it. But what would you say to the person that wasn't born wearing kilts? They're just kind of coming up into this. They're discovering their heritage. They're discovering they love wearing kilts. They're a little squeamish about walking out in public, maybe in an area, say like I live in an area where most of the time I'm the only guy in a kilt. Now, I've been doing it for years now. I'm known as the kilt guy. I walk out, nobody bats an eye anymore.
Right.
But what would you say to the new guy?
All right. Well, okay, I was a new guy once too, right? We all were.
Yep.
That first time out, it takes a bit of guts. It takes a bit of fortitude to be able to step forward and, you know, just damn the torpedoes and just go. But seriously, that's what you got to do. You know, I've always found, and people have told me from the very beginning of this journey for me, that when I'm wearing my kilt, that I stand a bit taller.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that you're standing a bit taller. Remember that your ancestors are there with you, right? That this is an outward expression of your family, your heritage, your culture. Okay? You're telling everybody where exactly you come from, right? Or what exactly means the most to you.
Yep.
And, you know, I wore the kilt when I started. I wore the kilt for 6 years straight, every day. And it didn't matter if it was, I've been in a kilt in -40. Okay. It's cold. I got to tell you, it's cold. Doesn't matter. Your knees are cold, right? People always come up to me in the winter and go, aren't your knees cold? And I say, aren't yours? Because they're wearing.
Right. Exactly.
You do have 8 yards of wool around your waist, though, so you got something.
Exactly. They go, yeah, my knees are freezing. And I go, well, everybody's knees are cold. Doesn't really matter, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But from about 3 inches above your knee all the way up, you're pretty warm. Unless you've got a breeze coming through, you know, off the lake or whatever, off the loch or whatever, you know, you're fine. You're fine. Wear a good, keep your core warm, you'll be fine. So
I agree with that one.
I'll tell you about a little story about the first time I walked out of my house in my kilt. And it was for that thing at work. right? And I walked out with my jacket and my kilt on and everything else. And a guy that lived in my building said something. He started laughing, or he said something. And I looked at him and I said, "You're walking your cat outside on a leash. What you got to say to me?" And I got in my car. So seriously, if you're thinking about it, do it.
Yes.
Don't look back. I've been doing this for 15 years, I think, about 15, 16 years of wearing a kilt as often as I can. You know, I mean, I've had some jobs where it's not a good idea to wear a kilt. You know, I was in the printing trade. If you get near a printing press with a kilt, maybe not a good idea, right? For a few weeks. So where you can, when you can, don't let anybody tell you that you have to do it all the time, because you don't. Don't let anybody tell you can't do it all the time, because you can. It's up to you.
Exactly.
It's your journey, and it's your kilt, right?
Yeah.
And it's your heritage. So
love it.
Do what's right for you. Seriously.
Wise words from a wise man.
We're all here on this
said.
earth together, right?
Yep.
That's right. Well said. Well, everybody, I want to thank Glen for joining us tonight and having a great show, great conversation. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for us, and say hello and subscribe. And we're going to have a lot of interesting shows like this. While we are a kilt company and we do sell kilts and accessories, we are way more interested in heritage, history, and talking to other people along this kilted journey with us. So that's what we're doing tonight and talking to Glen. And that's what we're going to do in future shows when we interview other people. Yes, we may even interview some of our competition in the kilt company business. We don't care. We want to talk to those guys too. So keep watch on us, subscribe, and just keep a lookout for our kilted journey. Glen from CE Kilts, thank you, my brother. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being here. Again, for everybody out there, if you're interested in supporting Glen's charity journey, we're going to post a link for that. If you're interested in the Wildcat tartan, we're going to post the link for the waiting list for that. So keep an eye down below in the show notes, and you'll see both of those links to be able to get involved.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Damian.
Thanks. Good night, everybody.
Awesome.